Hey, Pastor Steve Waldron here, New Life Pentecostal Church, Albany, Georgia. We're going to look at what many people think is the earliest depiction of Jesus. Now, there are some contenders for that crown. There was a book discovered in Palestine recently, a few years ago, in Archaeology that qualifies as recently, that has a picture almost 3D on it, that people think that, because it was a Christian writing on the inside, that was supposed to be a picture of Jesus from the first century. And then you have the catacombs in Rome. You even have the Sabellian catacombs in Rome, because of course the Roman church was primarily oneness or Sabellian until at least 222 AD, and probably well beyond that. You had Stephen in 250, Pope Stephen, the so-called Pope Stephen, arguing for the efficacy of Jesus' name baptism. But what many people would say is you have the Shroud of Turin. Now, I would personally think the Shroud of Turin is a fraud. First of all, I don't think Jesus had long hair, so I think that ends the story. And secondly, when they did the first scientific examinations of it, the Shroud of Turin just kind of appears in 1270 or something in that era, and the fibers actually came from that era. Then some people say, well, it was burnt, and so they re-sewed it with fibers from that era, but actually it's from Jesus, and it's from the power of his resurrection just shot through his burial clothes. And I still see some problems with that, because it says Jesus, had a cloth on his face. And so this doesn't have the cloth on its face. And people have explanations for that. So, like I said, there's some contenders for the earliest depictions of Jesus. But this is the Alexmenos Alexmenos graffito. I've read a lot about it. You can tell I haven't pronounced it a lot. I did a video just on this one time, but I just wanted to share this about the earliest depiction of Jesus. And it was found near Palatine Hill there. And we're going to move up so you can see it just a little better, another depiction of it. And one of the things is the fascinating writing underneath it is it's Alexmenos worships his God, showing that the early church felt that Jesus was God. When it talks about the Son of God in the New Testament, it's talking about God in flesh, an extension of God. Or as one of the early bishops of Rome said, you have Jesus is the visible of the invisible. That the Father is the invisible, Jesus is the visible. And a lot of people go into Logos Christology with that. But so this is a depiction. You'll notice it's a donkey's head. So Christians have always been persecuted for what they believed, whether it was Marcus Aurelius, Diocletian, others. Even though there's some argument whether Diocletian actually persecuted the Christians, Nero obviously did. And there was said to be 10 imperial persecutions of the Christians. So this is just something fascinating, a secular attestation to Jesus Christ. You have Juvenal, you have other people that were antagonistic to Christianity that wrote about Jesus. You have Josephus writing about Jesus, you have Suetonius, you have Tacitus that are writing about Christians, and if there's Christians, obviously there had to be a Jesus. That fact is, I've had people argue with me and say, I'm a Tacitus scholar, and he doesn't say Jesus or something, Crestus, and Suetonius, and that's a slave. I'm like, well, okay, they mention Christians. Where did Christians come from? I mean, it would presuppose there had to be a Christ, there had to be a Jesus. This is just obvious. In Pliny the Younger, his writings talking about they sang hymns to Christ as to God when they got together for church. So this is the Alexmenos graffito and the earliest depiction of Jesus. So I just thought you might be interested in that, and it dates very convincingly to the first century. Some people just kind of arbitrarily say it's really 200 AD because here's how they work. is a find will happen that really proves the validity of Jesus and Christianity, and all the evidence will point towards an early date. Some of the manuscript evidence does this as well. And so then somebody will say, no, it has to be this date. And so then just as a compromise, they'll say, okay, well, we'll just settle with the date in the middle. When in reality, the evidence is for first century dating. For that, Nazareth decree, all this kind of stuff. But so this is the Alexamenos Graffito and the earliest depiction of Jesus Christ. God bless you. I'll talk with you later in Jesus' name.